Hello, you magical beings, and welcome to Blunt Force Healing Podcast. This is episode number 744. And boy, it was quite a Monday that I need to talk about and update you on. Because let me just summarize a little bit the weekend. For those of you that are new or maybe just skipped the last couple of posts, or maybe just didn't read or didn't listen to, we started having a bit of an issue with the car, and I observed cooling system kicking off quite hard at times, rarely, but at times. But it was okay, we had no issues. I thought it was maybe long drives or just warm weather that it needed to go into more strain to cool down the engine. But obviously we drove that car for almost a year, or maybe less than that. But since we started using it to tow our mobile sauna on the trailer, which is quite heavy, about 1.7 ton, it put a lot of strain on that car, and I was aware that it's basically making its lifespan a bit shorter. But again, we are not planning to own that car to the very end. We are using it as means to an end, and obviously we still need to take care of it and respect it as our only car in the family. But it's not a long-term investment, that car. So, and it's still BMW diesel, so it's a fairly strong car, built to last and to go to much higher extent or strain than your regular car would. So I wasn't that concerned, but recently it started kicking off the cooling system into full speed and to max revs, and we received, first time in our career with that car, a message that the engine is in high temperatures, and it doesn't require any roadside assistance or anything like that. It just notified us and said that basically what we should do is to stop the car, let it cool down, and then continue driving. So there was no indication of any error or any problem with the engine. It just said that it's just hot, but it never happened before. And when I checked the gauge of the temperature, I saw that it's really high. It wasn't in red area, but it was not far from it. So we cooled it down and we continued driving carefully, and we did that for a couple of days, and the car happened to be going to that high temperatures a lot, so I needed to drive slowly and carefully, sometimes stop, and even after stopping and short drive when it was hot, the cooling system would still go full rev after turning off the car for a while. So I was very surprised that this happening. I considered a couple of options by reading the different articles and different possibilities and researching a bit. And although I'm not a mechanic and I don't understand it in full, from a basic perspective, I eliminated a couple of things, and I think that I pinned down a couple of possible causes, but the most logical would be a stock thermostat in a specific position, where it would not work efficiently. It would kick the cooling systems in a way that they shouldn't be, turned on in scenarios that were very similar to what happened to us. But still, it was dangerous in my opinion, because if we would by any chance overheat, that can cause the physical damage to the engine. And even high temperatures and driving very often, especially with that strain, would be damaging. So I organized for potential mechanic visit in the garage for checkup, but we were driving carefully over that weekend, and Monday was the day where I was really afraid what will happen, because I knew that even the short drive to school and back might cause it, that high temperature, even in a short drive. So it happened, I think, on Friday. So I knew it is possible. But then we had a trip to Finloch, which is a kind of spa or kind of a relaxation place, kind of little estate retreat that is about 30 kilometers from us. So I would say in miles it would be probably about 18 to 20 miles from where we live. So I knew it would be a long drive with that issue. So normally it's a very short drive, but I was expecting that it might be heating up very often. I will have to stop and let it cool down. But we went to school, we dropped Julian, came back, and there was no issues. We drove all the way to Finloch, no issues. The gauge didn't even budge. So I was really surprised. Everything smoothened out and normalized, and there was no trace of an issue at all. So I didn't know what's happening. So we went to that spa treatment facility. We were booked, like my wife booked something called Elements Trail. So basically it's just a fancy name for a couple of huts in the forest that serve different purposes, and you basically go between them and spend some time in each, having different experience and different relaxation type. So we started with the first hut, which was like it was really creepy, to be honest, in comparison to others, because it was pretty dim and dark. You entered the hut, it had no windows. It was almost like a cellar or something with a shallow pool, but the purpose of it was basically that it has to be dim or almost dark. You go into that pool, it's a very high salinity water. You can compare it to like a Dead Sea bordering Jordan and Israel. That Dead Sea is basically very salty, almost 10 times as salty as ocean water, and it basically causes you to float because of the features of the saline water and the way our body is pushed up. You can't really drown in there in terms of submerge yourself. You would, if you stay in one position, water will keep pushing you on the surface, so you can really float. And that was the whole idea, to just lay down and float in that water, and in that dim kind of lights turn off, and just calming music, very silent music, like very low volume music was calming you. You spend about 15 minutes there, and then come out and go to another hut. But at the end of the session, my wife was still there, and she suggested that we might take a drone footage from it. So basically go indoor with the drone and film her from the top. And I was quite hesitant, because I knew that while the drone that we bought was capable of doing indoor shots, and we used it in the house, and space in that hut wasn't super tight. It was possible, but I still wasn't so sure, and my wife is quite persuasive, so after a while I said, okay, let's try it in manual mode, because she thought that I can use one of those headless modes, but I was not trusting headless modes at all. I wanted to start it manually and then just fly over her carefully and directly, film it, and come back. Needless to say, the drone took off, went immediately into some crazy frenzy. It hit the roof. It started kind of bouncing against it for split seconds, and then it just went down straight into that saline water. And as you know, highly salty water is deadly for electronic devices. And it was in this scenario as well. Both battery and drone are dead. Well, I titled the podcast episode and the blog post Unalived. I don't really like that word because it was created out of nowhere and it's not a real word, but people tend to use it to not get cancelled or flagged by the automated systems like AI scanning YouTube videos or texts, or on Instagram, wherever you are now. You need to be very careful what you're saying or what you're writing, because certain words or keywords are highlighted and you can be banned or can be cancelled or can be just your account might be put on hold until somebody reviews it. So that word got created to basically say that something is dead, but instead of saying that something is dead or killed, it was unalived. So I guess we go for it. But it was just a funny twist to use that word. I don't mind using the word killed or whatever. It's a drone, and the drone is dead. It's really dead. And fortunately, I bought DJI Care service, which is like a premium subscription. You pay about, it's not very expensive, you only pay about €22 per year. And you can activate it up to 48 hours since buying the drone or since activating the drone. So I did it within that period because something told me kind of internally that, I might crash this drone, or I might do something, or something might happen to it, that it will kind of fly away, or it's software. Anything can happen. So I thought that I would just buy that security or insurance for €22. I wouldn't break the bank, but having it gives you a very cheap repairs and replacements covered by DJI. So for €22 annually, effectively, if your drone flies away or something happens to it that is very expensive and you lose the drone, you might be charged probably about €89 instead of €199 for a new drone. So it's less than 50% of a new drone price. And if it falls into repairs are very cheap. It's, I think, €19 per repair. So I don't know what they would qualify that for. I will record that separately in the next episode because this one is already almost 15 minutes. So needless to say, I killed the drone. That affected the whole day. The mood, the nerves, everything. And I didn't do much later on. Car was still acting normally. And I was confused if I should even confirm the appointment with mechanic, and I eventually did, because I think there's something fishy in this car. It acted once, it will probably act second time in the worst possible scenario. So I'd rather have someone check that properly, find the problem, and address it, so I can sleep better, especially that the winter time comes and we will really depend on this single car in our family, especially that we're towing the sauna and is under a lot of strain. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I will give you updates on Finloch itself and the drone later on. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Stay tuned and see you again tomorrow.